Welcome to the Darkstream. I'm Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, Infogalactic News, and, as you can see, Castalia House. What's up? What's up is victory. Yet another victory over the SJWs, I am happy to say. That is not true that Amazon is converged. I can tell you that for an absolute fact. And in fact, that's something that we're going to address here in a little bit. Obviously, there's been a lot going on today. The terror attack in London, some of the revelations coming out with regards to the House Intelligence Committee, talking about the Trump transition team being spied on. But that's all national news. I'm going to talk about what I've been busy with today, and to a certain extent yesterday. How many of you are familiar with the book that Castalia just published, Corrosion, book 1 of the Corroding Empire? Any of you picked up a copy of that yet? Johan Kalsi is back. He is absolutely back. And so I'm glad you guys are liking it. Make sure you put the reviews up there. It's very important to get the reviews up there. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like it. You're like, what's the point? There's already 50 other people. There's already 150 other people that have posted reviews. But it does matter. It does matter. All I can say is that Johan Kalsi is not me. But actually, on this particular book. We're not concerned about the fake reviews. Frankly, the more reviews, the better. The more reviews it gets, the better. And so, actually, I was just talking to Martin Van Creveld. We're going to be publishing his first novel in a couple months, and we are. I'm actually going to be getting together with him soon. So he's actually one of my favorites out of our authors, just personally. He's just a wonderfully warm, charming man, and his wife is what they used to call a pistol. She's very vivacious and really funny. Anyhow, so what's been going on today, and actually starting yesterday, is, okay, as you know, what some of you guys may not know about, okay, you know this book, SJWs Always Lie, right? I published it back in August 2015, and the very next day, this tranny that calls himself Alexander Aaron published a book with the same smiley face thing. It was like sort of a crude sketch of it with the yellow smiley face, and it was by Theophilus Pratt, and it was entitled "John Scalzi is not a popular author, and I myself am quite popular." And so it was a parody of this. No big deal. It was. I mean, it wasn't actually any good, except for the fact that the table of contents had initially had 2 chapter 5s in it. It wasn't even the 2 chapter 5 and chapter 6 were both labeled chapter 5. And so what was funny about the parody book is that they were like 3 or 4 chapter 5s, and the selling point was, more chapter 5s than SJWs or whatever. Now, what was funny was that one of my readers actually published a parody of the parody, and at one point on Amazon, in the political philosophy category, the top 3 bestsellers were SJWs Always Lie, the parody of the parody, and the parody. So, but this was not a big deal. I was not upset by that. I thought it was amusing, and I even put I was quite proud of the fact that the book and the parody were #1 and #2 at one point. I actually had to put a screenshot of that up on the blog. Now, what a lot of people don't realize about that is that John Scalzi got involved in the parody of SJW's Always Lie. He actually read the audiobook for it. Okay, a lot of people don't know about that, and so yeah. Then there was also a separate issue where some other readers published a book that was called John Scalzi as a Rapist, and they made a similar cover. It was also a similar cover to SJW's Always Lie, and so they ended up changing it to and Scalzi actually managed to get Amazon to pull it down. Apparently, you're not supposed to do that, so they changed the name to John Scalzi is not a rapist, and so that was okay. But the point is, I had nothing to do with that. Castelia House had nothing to do with that. John Scalzi was directly involved in the parody of SJW's Always Lie. He didn't write it, but he did do the audiobook narration. So anyhow, when Collapsing Empire was announced, and of course the Collapsing Empire is basically it's a ripoff mostly of Asimov and also of Frank Herbert, Dune a little bit, but more of the Asimov stuff. Anyhow, I thought this is ridiculous. Literally any Castelia author could write a better book than John Scalzi. And so, but we're all too busy. And so, but then when the cover was announced, one of our cover artists was like, "I can't believe that crappy cover. I could crank out something, just as good as that, no problem." So, anyhow, so we end up. It's not reporting fake reviews that help. It's a good idea, but it's even more important to downvote them. So anyhow, so we ended up. I talked to an author. I thought, well, if I was going to do a foundation like book, I would think about the way that artificial intelligence is starting to program itself, and machine intelligence is starting to program itself, and so nobody actually knows what the code does. There's no human who has actually created the code. There's no human who's following the code. And so I was imagining, well, what happens if the people who actually understand this stuff stop paying attention to it? And then suddenly what happens? Well, that's the point I'm getting to. We did this. That's what Corrosion, book 1 of the Corroding Empire is. I went and talked to an author who really wanted to work with us. And I said, look, you want to work with us? Great. Here, I got an idea. Why don't you do this? And so, well, hey, programmers don't document anything, so why should code? So anyhow, Johan, this author, ended up turning in what was actually a surprisingly good book. I mean, this was just supposed to be basically a quick parody thing that was better than what Scalzi and Tor could do with their big money contract and their big author, blah blah blah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people quite understand that. I don't hate Scalzi. I have contempt for him. I don't envy his success. I understand that his success is basically a big marketing game, and pointing to his book sales to say he's a superior writer is like pointing to Britney Spears' album sales and saying she's a superior musician. It's just not true. It's actually ridiculous. And so, anyhow, I haven't read a single book of his since I tried to read. I read Old Man's War. I read the first chapter of the Android, the Philip K. Dick one. That was horrible. And I read like the first 2 chapters of the second Old Man's War book before I realized that the guy couldn't write. So I haven't read any of his stuff since. The excerpts and stuff are all I've seen, and that's all I need to see to know that he's actually gotten worse. So anyhow, so Johan Scalzi does this superior book. we actually publish it a day before Scalzi's book's supposed to come out. And, you know, lo and behold, the book is well received. You know, it's in the, it peaked so far in like the top 2,000 books on Amazon. But then what happened is all of a sudden the book got pulled. I mean, it literally had just gone on sale, and then suddenly got pulled, and we get this email saying, this book is misleading, you're violating the guidelines, you have to change the title, you have to change the title, the cover, and the name. So, you know, we didn't have any reason to suspect shenanigans. So we thought, okay, well, we got to change it, so we'll change it. So we came up with this other cover. We changed it to Corrosion from the Corroding Empire. We changed it to Corrosion. We changed the cover, and then we changed the name to Harry Seldon, which, of course, if you've read Foundation, you know what it's referring to. And so then the book comes back on, it goes back on sale and whatnot, and then it gets pulled again. I mean, you know, almost immediately. And so, you know, at this point, we were kind of like, okay, this is strange. I mean, they told us to do something, we did it, and what's going on? So anyhow, I called them. This is the first time we called them up. It's now been, so because they did put it back up. This was the problem. They put it up in the system. It said it was live, and they told us it should be live within 24 hours. Except it had already gone live within 3 hours, but it never showed up. So finally I had to call and say, okay, there seems to be some kind of mistake. And I thought maybe it was because the different names or whatever. And they're like, no, it's just not, we can't find the page. So they fixed it very quickly, no problem. And then boom, it goes down again. And that's the point, that's when I started that's when I changed it back to Corroding Empire and to Johann Kalsi and all that sort of thing, because I realized at that point that this was no mistake. I knew that this was an SJW attack. I knew it was, right, exactly, happenstance, coincidence, enemy action. I knew it was enemy action. So at this point, I actually elevated it, and I went and talked to a supervisor for the first time. And also the other thing is that while I was doing some investigating, I realized that there were some other things that people didn't realize. Like, for example, the book was also excluded from the Amazon Associates program. Why? That doesn't make any sense. That has nothing to do. It's totally different. And then we also got a warning from them bitching about the fake reviews and the negative reviews that Scalzi's book was getting, because Scalzi's book had just come out. And so that's when we knew for sure that there was one or more SJW employees at Amazon who were doing this. That this had nothing to do with Amazon. This had nothing to do with Amazon's policies. This was just one or two SJWs with an agenda, one or two SJWs who were definitely Scalzi fans, and who were angry about the fact that what we had done. And this is the thing to keep in mind. SJWs always act like nothing you do matters. They always strike these poses about, oh, ha, 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 you failed again. Oh, you're so desperate, you're so pathetic. Their words are meaningless. Remember, SJWs always lie. And so, no, these had to be not just Vox haters, these had to be Scalzi fans. Because they weren't just mad at me. They were angry about the fact that some people were angry about and incorrectly blaming Scalzi and Tor for the book being pulled down. You know, we initially thought because of a tweet that Scalzi, some of the fake reviews of Scalzi's book are definitely, you know, readers of mine. There's no question. You know, I haven't encouraged them to do so. I haven't told them to do so. But you know, there are names that I recognize, that, you know, people that have reviewed my books before and then are doing that. And just so you know, I don't encourage fake reviews at all. I think it's a mistake. I think that you should, you know, if you think a book sucks, then read the book and then don't write a short little review. you've seen me do it. Write a long, detailed review explaining exactly why the book sucks, why the author's a moron. That is far more damning, far more devastating to the author and to the other people looking at it. All you have to do to demonstrate how badly Scalzi sucks is to quote his writing. That's that section. People who suspect that Red Shirts might be a good book are absolutely repulsed when you just quote that little section on exchanging blowjobs. It's repulsive, it's ridiculous, and it demonstrates that the guy has never been around military people for more than 5 minutes. So anyhow, there's a similarly bad section in the Collapsing Empire where he begins with the captain of the ship fucking the brains out of the assistant purser or something. And having a whole conversation while she's having sex with this other guy. It's absolutely absurd. It's terrible. And so when I put it on the blog, people thought that I had made it up because it was so bad. They thought I was trying to make them look bad. Anyhow, so going on with the story, we get the book back up, and I talk to the supervisor, and you know how people are. They don't like to believe bad things about people that they are connected to. And so she's saying, well, this last time the book didn't actually get put down or didn't get pulled down. It just got pulled off because there was a dichotomy or a contradiction between the title in the system and the title on the book itself and that sort of thing. So she was theorizing that maybe it was an accident. I said, look, I'm sure it wasn't, but okay, I'm not going to argue with you. So anyhow, she said, just we've got it fixed. Just let it go through the system. It'll say that's up in review for a while, and then it'll be up. Okay, fantastic, great. So I make the announcement. Book will be back up. People were able to. They weren't able to buy it, but they were able to put reviews up again. And then no sooner did the book go live. I think one person was able to buy the book, and then boom, page is gone. Total 404. The Dogs of Amazon page. And so that was proof. That was the proof that we needed that this was, not just proof for us to know it, but that was proof to help the supervisors at Amazon understand that this was not an accident, that this was malicious activity. This was a rogue employee abusing their position. And so now the book's back up. The supervisors and managers know they've now elevated it to a situation they're able to do the investigation. And it's actually been great because now we actually have some pretty high level contacts at Amazon that we didn't have before, and they understand that we are people of our word, that we do what we say we're going to do, and that we're willing to follow. We're quite willing to follow the guidelines. The supervisor had asked me, well, how come you changed the title and all this stuff? I don't understand that. I said, because we were told to. We thought that was a legitimate instruction, so we went to change it, and she's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So, will heads roll? I don't know. I don't know what Amazon's employee policies are. I do know that they were extremely apologetic about it. And I do know that they want to make sure that this does not ever happen again to us or anyone else publishing on their platform. This is not what they want to happen. This is not what they want to do. Amazon's got lots and lots of guidelines. At no point do they say you cannot use the same title as another book. They cannot. They're not going to say, well, you don't want to make your cover look like another cover. Half the romance covers look completely identical to me. What are you going to say? Oh wait, you can't put a headless guy with abs on the cover with a girl clinging to him because these other 500 authors did that. It's ridiculous. So And then the other thing to keep in mind too is that they understand why we did it. They know perfectly well that that this was something that Scalzi and Aaron had already done to us. You know, it wasn't like we started it. And this is classic SJW. You know, SJWs absolutely love to scream and cry, "He hit me back." You know, that is the "he hit me back" is the classic whine of the SJW. You know, they are all offense, and they think that no one should ever be able to hit them back. Now, there's something else to keep in mind, that there's an interesting lesson I learned here too, and this is where SJW fake history comes from. You know, we looked at look at what happened with the story now. So yesterday, or this morning, File 770, I guess it was yesterday, File 770 puts up a story, and they're talking about how Amazon pulled down our book because it was too much like John Scalzi's. Okay, yeah, we thought that was true. We thought that was the case. But remember, where did they get that story from? They got it from us. Okay, so they put that up, fine. This leads to various speculation and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, but then suddenly people start adding fake details. So Mike Glyer of File 770 himself says, Castelia House is on thin ice. And one of his readers is talking about how, well, you know, Amazon keeps lists of problem children, and because of the rape book, which we didn't do, and because of whatever the other thing was, I don't remember. Castelia is surely one of Amazon's problem children now. Blah blah blah. Okay, they're just inventing this stuff because it's what they want to believe. It's not true. They have literally no information that we don't have. They're basing their theories on what we said. So I come back and I send Mike Glyer an email saying, no, we're not on thin ice. They've already restored the book once. We're working with them on this. You know, I don't know yet what the story is, but we're going to find out. And so then, you know, we go through several of these rounds of the book getting pulled, us getting it put back up again. And next thing you know, I mean, I'm literally on the phone for the 4th time with the supervisor. She's helping us out. And IO9 has a big story about how Amazon has pulled the book because it was too much like Scalzi's. So, you know, first they cite the fake news. They come up with a bizarre interpretation of it. Other people do their spins on it, and then a bigger media site picks up the story. And then, you know, what's the next step? The next step is Wikipedia is going to cite the fake news story. You know, and then it becomes a fact. And this is why SJWs invariably spiral into this total world of delusion. They do not exist in reality. They live in this world of lies. Yes, and then when anyone doubts it, Snopes will come in and confirm it. And here's the thing. I told Glyer at the beginning that the thin ice thing was not true. I theorized before I had proof that there was a rogue employee. They've all known this stuff. And yet they prefer to run with the falsehoods. The way that we correct the reliable sources is we develop our own. That's why Infogalactic exists. You know, it's very, very important to use Infogalactic, even if you don't have the wherewithal to support it via the burn unit or something. I very much encourage you, use Infogalactic News for news. Use Infogalactic instead of Wikipedia, and tell your friends about it. You know, it's free. Just do it. No, SJWs will not wake up. It is impossible for them to admit they are wrong, because they identify a certain way, they can no sooner admit that they are wrong or admit that they're living in an alternative reality than a Christian is likely to just abandon their faith, just because somebody contradicts it. And so that's why I'm writing the book right now. SJWs always double down. So yeah, it's right. Their argument is their identity, and it is very, very difficult for people to give up their identity. You guys have bumped it up. The Alexa thing is working. If you don't know what we're talking about, I explained that Alexa is a bullshit metric. I haven't talked to the VFM yet about this. I haven't talked to the Dread Ilk yet about this. So this is all you guys. This is all Periscope. Go to alexa.com, use Firefox, and get the Alexa toolbar, and just once a day, go to voxday.blogspot.com and go to infogalactic.com, and then you will see the rankings continue to move up. So far you guys have bumped up the rankings 2,000 spots. So that's proof that it works. But we will we will bump it up even more. Yeah, and there's a tremendous amount of collusion in the media. The fake news stuff, there's a reason why they all have the same stories, because they all go to the same sources. It's the same. You see this during Gamergate and Rabid Puppies. You saw the narrative for a while that tried to paint me as a white supremacist. That started with the New Republic, Jeet here. It was picked up by Olivia News or something like that, and it just now that ended up failing. Olivia Nuzzi, that was it. It ended up failing because they did not have the fact that I'm an American Indian renders the white supremacist narrative difficult. So anyhow, the best thing you can do actually to bump Alexa ratings up, in addition to visiting it with the toolbar, is to link to it. So if you have a blog, if you have a site, or if you're on Facebook, just do links to either the blog or to Infogalactic, and then boom, you'll see it. Yeah, and the other thing you need to remember is that SJWs tend to be they're herd animals, they're herd creatures, and so yeah, and the buzzwords are another clue that they're doing that. So anyhow, if you want to be part of this latest action, I would encourage you to go out and get Corrosion by Johann Kalsi. It's a good book. I mean, I can tell you right now, if you have any interest in science fiction, if you enjoyed Isaac Asimov's Foundation, you will like it. Read the reviews. Unlike a lot of the Scalzi reviews, these are reviews that people have read. I mean, these are reviews by people who have actually read the book. And so, and if you've read it, then review it. If you've read and reviewed it, then upvote and downvote a few reviews. These are all small little things that you can do that will make a difference. They're all things that you can do that will make a difference. Another thing you can do, and you should do, is get SJWs Always Lie and read it, because you never know when the SJWs are going to come after you. I was expecting it this time. I was expecting that the SJWs were going to come after us because of what we were doing with Corrosion and the Corroding Empire. But even though I was expecting it, I was not expecting this level of persistence. I mean, I thought that the guy would, he took a shot, he took the book down, he kept our book from being for sale for the first launch day for Scalzi. I thought that was the goal. And so we were prepared, but what I was not prepared for was the fact that the guy was going to be dumb enough to not only double down, but treble down and quadruple down. Well, we're not doing a second edition of SJW's Always Lie. We're doing a sequel, SJW's Always Double Down, and I'm working on that right now. And in fact, what I just basically told you about is essentially going to be chapter 1 of SJW's Always Double Down. And so, the SJW at Amazon will definitely get caught. I strongly suspect that they already know who he is. And I don't know whether he'll be fired or not. Again, I don't know what Amazon's policies are. For all I know, he didn't even necessarily violate a formal policy. But SJWs are very accustomed to the authorities being amenable and being able to get away with stuff. And so that's why they tend to behave in such an overtly stupid, risky way. They always think that they can just lie their way out of it, or that the purity of their intentions excuses their actions. So the best thing that you can do to help us in this regard is buy a copy of Corrosion. The more popular the book is, the better the book does, the higher its rank is, the more likely that Amazon is to defend us. Like all companies, they are most concerned about where their bread is buttered, and so they don't want this kind of stuff. They don't mind a little healthy competition. They don't mind that at all. That sells more books. But what they don't like and what they don't want is this kind of stuff where people are actually behaving badly. So anyhow, thanks so much for all your support. You make it a real, it's not just a privilege, but it's a pleasure. As much as you guys are inspired by what we do, and as much as you're encouraged by what we do, we feed off of your enthusiasm. The more enthusiastic you are, the more energy it gives us, and it's a virtuous cycle. Like the God Emperor says, high energy all the way. So anyhow, thanks very much, and we will look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And yes, I do need to get that reading list together. Have a good one. Cheers.